Hey friends, thanks for being here. I am Jordan. Welcome to my March wrap-up where I read 10 books from multiple genres, DNF'd 1, had 2 5-star reads, and read a total of 4,468 pages. If you're new here, I am Jordan. Thank you so much for being here and watching this video. I'm really starting to wonder if I even predict my reading taste very well anymore, because I just had quite a few books I was very surprised by how much I liked them, and then a couple books that I was surprisingly disappointed in. But overall, it was a good reading month for me. Let me know in the comments what your favorite book that you read in March was, and now let's just get right into the books that I read. If you watched my March TBR video, my books were picked for me by my children. They did an Easter egg hunt for me. It was so much fun. So a lot of these books that I ended up reading were picked by them. I'm sorry, I'm so distracted because there's a bird singing outside. You probably can't hear it. Are you done, little bird? By all means, this is your show. Okay, now he's quiet. I did read most of the books they picked for me. There was only one book that I never got to, and then Bromance Book Club, which I only got to chapter 10, 125 pages in. Not for the sake of like not liking the book. I was mostly enjoying it. It just didn't suck me in, so I just ended up picking up other books. So I didn't DNF this book, I just didn't finish it this month. I'm just gonna put it on my like soft DNF shelf where books that I am kind of in the middle of but not super drawn to live. This is probably book 5 on that shelf, and eventually I will finish this book. I just got distracted by better books, so I don't have a star rating for this one, but I did want to mention that I did start it because I know a lot of you were very excited that I was finally reading this, so sorry to disappoint, I didn't actually finish it. But a book that I did read that is a new favorite, and again, if you watched that video, I actually took this one off of my TBR, but then I DNF'd one that we'll talk about in a minute. So I put this one back on my TBR, and guys, it was one of the best decisions that I've ever made. That was Bridge Kingdom. I am so happy that I put this one back on my TBR because I ended up really loving it. I think that I'm landing at like a 4.5 star for it. The only reason it's not 5 stars is because there was a little bit of a lull in the middle that I was like, okay, can we have something happen? Also, the plot line had me so stressed out. She's basically like kind of being a spy in this other kingdom. So she married the king of that kingdom in an arranged marriage so that she could spy on them. Things start changing, and there's like this whole plot that you're so on the edge of your seat of her being found out. I'm not gonna say like in what way. I like don't handle that type of stress in books. Like when something is hidden that you're freaking out over them being discovered for, that stresses me out. Lara, the main girl, she just kind of frustrated me at times. There were just so many moments that I was like, why? But I will say she redeemed herself, and I did end up liking her by the end, so I appreciate that. But Amren, the king that she married, top tier. Such a good book boyfriend. I also really loved this overall setting and the side characters. It was just a good book. Basically, if you haven't read this yet, it is well worth reading. There is 1 or 2 slightly open door scene from what I'm remembering, because I read it at the beginning of the month, and I swear I have like slight book amnesia, but I do know because I made note of it that there is an open door scene. So that is a hard pass for you, then you are warned. But otherwise, read this book. Okay, next let's go ahead and just get this out there. The one that I DNF'd was Ghosted. I am so bummed because I really thought I would love this book. Not because I ever saw people talking about it. Like there was literally one person who raved about it. It hit so many of my buzzwords, but I made it to probably like 40% in, and I was so bored. I didn't like the male lead, so that really wasn't helping. And then the female, it wasn't that I disliked her, but she was just dull. Like she wasn't doing it for me either. I was like, listen, I have put in 40% effort into this book. The fact that I was reading a love story, which is everything to me, like I love loved, and I couldn't care less about their story. Just really meant to me like, we're done here. I DNF'd it. I don't have any regrets. One of the other very first ones I read in March is the Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez. I think that the more Abby Jimenez books I read, the more I like her. I'm pretty sure this is my new favorite Abby book. I knew from reading The Friend Zone that Sloane was my girl. Like, Sloane just did it for me. I really, really liked her character in the other book, so getting her story, I pretty much knew I was going to really enjoy this. But thankfully, I also really ended up liking the love interest Jason, who is a famous musician. So it has this famous guy trope, which is very hit or miss for me, but I think Abby wrote it so well. There is a dog in this story, so say less. It added so much to the plot, and I loved the meet cute and this dog. I will say though that Jason did frustrate me at first. He seemed almost too pushy, and a pushy male is a hard pass for me, but his character really developed as well. So like, if you do start this one and you're like, wait, this guy Jason really stinks, trust me and push through, because it does evolve and he does grow on you, and I ended up really liking him. I think for this one, I am landing at also a 4.5 star. It made me laugh, it made me cry, it made me swoon. Like, it gave me every feeling. It just didn't give me that overall 5-star feeling. And also, I can tolerate language in a fantasy book and sometimes in romance books, but like, the language was a little excessive for being a love story. That is just a personal preference, but otherwise, I highly recommend this one. I really loved it. Read The Friend Zone first and then this one, because you definitely need Sloane's backstory. There is a third one also in this series that I literally cannot think of right now, so it's right here. That's the one. Anyways, so this was a win for me. Next though, let's talk about one that was a flop for me. I get so nervous to dislike a book that I know a lot of other people like, and I feel like it's almost always a thriller. Like, maybe we just need to stop trying thrillers for a little while. It's kind of what I've settled on. I am a fantasy, romantasy, romance, rom-com, like, give me those vibes all day long. Thrillers are so epically hit or miss for me, and mostly a miss. So I apologize in advance for the review I'm about to give this book. To all of my thriller girlies, I love you, and I promise that I'm going to be nice. Okay, so I finally read I Found You, which has been on my TBR for a long time. In fact, a friend of mine who knows my taste in thrillers, however, I'm starting to realize I don't even think I have a taste, she really thought that I would like this one, and Lisa Jewell has been a success for me in the past. So it was almost a given that I should like this book, and I was very surprised that I didn't. And I won't even say like, oh, I hated this book, it was awful, like some other thrillers I've read. It just was more like, why? What did I just read? Like, why did I just waste my time on that book? Like, I didn't dislike it, but I didn't like it. That's a thing, okay? Which is why it probably got like 2.5, 3 stars for me. I found so many plot holes in this book, and then it ended and I was like, where's the twist? I thought I missed something, and I went on and I read like a bunch of discussions people have had over on Goodreads about it, and no, I didn't miss anything. It's just that there was really no twist. It was just boring, in my opinion. You're following 3 point of views, and that got confusing because they all kind of intertwine into the ultimate mystery of like what happened to this girl long ago. Now this guy is sitting on the beach and he has no memories, and so like, why is he there? And then these 3 points of view are weaving with each other, but one of them is like from the past when this girl disappeared. To me, it just got a little confusing at times, probably because I was doing it on audio, which doesn't help. One of the other huge reasons why I couldn't rate this higher, and the main thing that I just actually like did not like about this book, was a scene of assault. I am realizing that I think that's why I don't like thrillers, because they have to like make you not like someone, right? And so the way they do that typically is through how they treat other people and these graphic, kind of inappropriate assault type of scenes. And I just can't. Like, that is just such a hard pass for me, especially when it is kind of explicit. And so when this was occurring in this book, I almost DNF'd it in that exact moment. I could hardly even listen. So I do think that that's a huge part of why I personally don't gravitate towards thrillers. That I have read thrillers I like that don't really have that in it, but I think that a lot of them do, is what I'm discovering. And it's just not something that I can enjoy reading or listening to. I'm disappointed, very disappointed. I really thought that I would like this one, and I'm sad to say that I didn't. This one will be going for sale on my Pango storefront, along with every book that you ever see me talk about that I don't like. They're out. I don't need it. On a happy note though, I read and absolutely adored this book, Lucky Charm by Courtney Walsh. This is a rom-com hockey romance, and it did not disappoint. I'm telling you, Courtney Walsh put something magical in her books because she literally does no wrong. Last month, I read My Phony Valentine and gave it 5 stars. This one, I'm also giving 5 stars. Like, it just did not disappoint. It was exactly what I needed as a palate cleanser and just a feel-good, happy, lovely story. You are following Eloise, who is an actual ray of sunshine. Like, I literally adore her. And then Gray is the hockey player who is grump of the year, honestly. He is so ridiculously grumpy. He's kind of new to the team, so the coach and all of them basically tell him, we're hiring this girl to help you adapt and to make sure that you are not a jerk everywhere you go. So naturally, as expected, she breaks down his walls. It just is such an easy, fun read. I highly recommend. There is a 3rd book about their other sister that is coming out later this year. We have much to look forward to, and I recommend all of Courtney Walsh's books. If you haven't tried her yet, definitely do yourself a favor and try her. Okay, the next one I literally predicted to be 5 stars. It is on Kindle Unlimited, but I bought myself a physical copy because I was certain that I would want to annotate. I just don't know what it was about this one that I was so sure I was gonna love. I just sadly did not. That is A Love Letter to Whiskey by Candy Steiner. Like, where do I even begin? You're following these 2 friends. They're just like always harboring feelings for each other while they date other people, and then they have a reconnection. Like, it spans years of life. They truly are like best friends. It's almost as if like it's just never the right time for them, and you're growing frustrated for them. The reason why I did not like this book, first of all, it was like way more R-rated than I expected. I tend to be a little bit naive about this stuff because I just love love stories so much. I'm like, it won't be that bad. It'll be a scene or two, and most of the time it's fine. But this one was like heavy. I mean, where it was like, we're doing this again. And so that just takes away from the plot for me personally. Also though, like, this book is huge. The first half of the book is her point of view. So you're reading this entire story, all these years of their life, and it ends. And then the second half of the book is his point of view, but it's the same exact story. And I realize that I just don't like that. Sure, I'm getting his thoughts and his point of view, which sometimes I really appreciate, but I didn't like the story enough to want to literally reread scene by scene and even like conversations again a second time. Instead of like doing the dual point of view intermixed through the story, it literally was like 2 different books. I know a lot of people really love this one and they like thrived that they got his point of view, but I did it. I finished it. I'm selling it also on Pango. I'm just not interested in keeping it. I did end up rating the book like 3 stars when it was a 5-star prediction. So that's always a bummer. Towards the end of the month, I did a little bit of book shopping. I already did post that video, but while shopping, I bought Bride, and I don't know what it was about this one, but it just was like, please read me instantly. I was so drawn into the synopsis because I love a good vampire story, and this one is like a marriage of convenience, arranged marriage type of thing between a vampire and a werewolf, and it's like pretty small, so I just was like, we're adding this to my March TBR and I'm reading it right now, and I'm so glad I did because overall I'm probably giving this one like a 4.5, 4.75 stars. I really, really liked this one. It was just very unique and really fun, and I loved being in this world with all of these werewolves and this vampire girl trying to survive in this world while feeling a lot of feelings towards her husband. There's also a huge element of mystery here because a big part of why she even agreed to this arranged marriage is because her best friend has gone missing and she thinks that the werewolves had something to do with it. It just was so good. The only reason why I didn't give it 5 stars, well, there's like a couple reasons. I did have to get used to the writing up front. Like I felt like it took me a good 25% of the book to get used to the writing style. I don't know why. Push past that if you do pick this one up. Also, again, I don't like heavy language if it's not a heavy fantasy book. Like someone said it perfectly on Instagram when I was talking about this. They're like, if you're not in a war, why are you cursing so much? Like, honestly, why? This girl was like talking about a cat and she like said the F word 10 times in 2 pages talking about a cat. It literally takes me out of the story. So that is a big part of why it wasn't 5 stars for me. But then also, I can tolerate in a romance 1 or 2 scenes that are maybe slightly open door. It's just personal preference for me. This one, like towards the end, I was like, dude, we're on scene like 4 or 5 now. Why are we back to this? Again, that also removes me from the plot a little bit when it's kind of excessive. Now, granted, I know there are people who will read 600 pages of smut, I'm sure. But that is not me. Like, I need the love, I need the plot, I need the commentary in a short book. It doesn't need 5 smutty scenes, okay? It just doesn't to me. There is also like a really weird, I mean, it's a vampire and a werewolf. It just made things interesting, okay? There was just something that I will never visually get out of my mind now. It was just strange. If you've read it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you've been warned. It's just... Anyways, so that's why it's not 5 stars for me. But it was pretty darn close, and I really do think that I will try another Ali Hazelwood now. So if you have read her and you like her, can you let me know in the comments, like, which book do I go with? Another fantasy that I read was Arch Enemies. This one is definitely more sci-fi. I read last year and really shockingly enjoyed Renegades, and this is book 2. I'm landing at probably 3.5 stars. I did not like this one as much as I liked Renegades, which is okay. I do feel like that happens so much with second books in a series. I just was definitely more bored with this one than I was with Renegades. However, with that being said, it was still fun. Everyone in this story is a superhero, but the villains against the good guys, but you're kind of like, who actually is the villain here? And one of the girls is a spy acting as someone else within the superhero society. It is fun. It just wasn't amazing to me. I will continue and go on to the final book in the series because, like, obviously at this point I need to know how it's gonna end. I did listen to it primarily on audiobook, and the audiobook, it's pretty good. And guys, I finally read my very first Mariana Zapata. I read All Roads Lead Here. I am landing at probably 4 stars with this one. I have always heard she does slow burn, but I mean, this was a 600-page book and they didn't even kiss until 90% into the story, but it worked. This was very character-driven type of story. You're following Aurora as, for many reasons I won't get into, she just needed to start over in life. So she moves back to this small town in Colorado that she grew up in, which a huge part of why I gave this book as many stars as I did is because of the setting. I love Colorado and it put me there so perfectly. I mean, you're going on hikes with Aurora, you're experiencing sunburns and the rapid change in weather. Like, it just really put me back in Colorado, which I appreciated so much and is part of why I personally really enjoyed this book. Aurora was so likable. She is a ray of sunshine and she's living in this apartment on the property of this like 40-year-old man and his 16-year-old son, and it's a very slow story of how she wins their hearts and she finds family. I really, really enjoyed that aspect. The love really took its time, which I appreciated so much because it's not insta-lovey at all. I feel like it was very real life, especially for someone in their 40s. There was a bit of an age gap, like she was early 30s, he was early 40s. Another part of it that I really loved was that she was a songwriter and the 16-year-old son was a musician, and so you had a lot of these elements of songwriting and music. Anyways, this was a success for me, 4 stars. The last book that I finished that I'm not gonna talk like immensely about because I have a whole vlog that I put out where I was reading this and gave all my opinions, but that was Magnolia Park's Into the Dark. This is book 5 in the overall story, but technically book 3 for Magnolia Parks. However, you need to read all 5. Just go with me. I know, it's weird. This book was huge. It literally was the most character-driven story I've ever read, but you are 5 books into these characters. I think that it was so well written. It explored grief, it explored found family, it explored like family trauma and issues. It was just a whole gambit of human things, while also like this epically beautiful and perfect love story. One thing that I will say that I didn't get to say in my vlog is a lot of people talk about this series being so toxic and these characters being so toxic, and yes, it is. They make a lot of very immature and stupid decisions. But as a fan of this series and someone who has read all 5 books, not just the first book, you have to get past the first book, guys. There is so much more depth to this series and these books than just this like surface of poor decision making. That is all. That is just my, like, I needed to just throw that in there. That is all. That is what I'm gonna say about this one. This was 5 stars for me. That is a wrap. I feel like I've been talking for an eternity. Thank you though if you watched this entire video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video and you have not subscribed yet, please consider hitting that subscribe button and sticking around. I hope that your books are amazing, and I will see you guys in the next video.